Are we recording?
We were going.
How do you do? We're about to unfold the story of Frankenstein. He's one of the strangest tales ever told. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. Well, we've warned you.
And as they say, you've been warned. Welcome back to Frankenstein Minute, the podcast that dissects the Universal Frankenstein films minute by minute. I'm Bill Evenson.
And I'm Thom Lang, and you're joining us for minute 63. Oh, 65. We'll do that again.
We can do 63 again.
We'll do 63 over. Yeah. 65 of 1931's Frankenstein, where the monster has just dragged the unconscious form of Henry Frankenstein up to the windmill, slams the door shut.
Tony, as I call him.
Tony.
Sorry.
They're both Tony now. Tony has dragged Tony up to the windmill.
Tony and Tony Jr.
He slams the door shut, causing a beam to fall, preventing the door from opening. So the villagers can't get in, and nobody else.
The monster closes the door behind him, and then a convenient Rube Goldberg-esque contraption falls perfectly, blocking the door. This is a problem. It's an absolute problem. It's not good that this happens. This is a bad thing for this film. It's to this film's detriment.
Yeah, I think you're putting too much into it.
I am. There's like a comma, and I still don't care.
Still don't care.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing. If somebody were to look at this and say this is really stupid, I would say, yeah, it's totally stupid that this happened. Yeah. I mean, it's so stupid.
I guess.
A big giant beam falls and blocks the door. Which is important for the plot.
It has to happen. So,
But I don't care personally.
Yeah,
so I guess, but I think it's worth acknowledging.
Okay.
It's dumb. Don't you think it's dumb? It's a thing that could happen.
It could happen.
It does happen. So I guess it could happen.
It's not. I don't find it as contrived as you do.
Okay, you don't think it's Rube Goldberg-esque?
One beam falls. It's not like a whole series of things.
It kind of almost looks like two things happening, because a beam and then another piece. So it's almost like the lock, like a 2x6 falls. And then the beam falls on top of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no.
Because it has to happen that way. A beam couldn't block the door without that other board falling in place first.
Well, I just think it's the vibration of the door slamming causes
the
door lock, the horizontal one, to fall.
So we agree why it happens.
Yes, and
it's
then
still stupid.
That causes the other one to topple over. It's not stupid.
That causes that's true. So you've got, okay, I guess I see what you're saying. The fact that it happens is fine, but the fact that the Rube Goldberg-esque stuff happens is the same. You have to set it up. It's like a domino has to be sitting there.
Yeah.
And I think it's dumb.
Well,
but again, I don't care, because the way you phrased it is, I can't remember exactly how you said it. Either it should happen or it has to happen, I think you said.
It has to happen.
And in that sense, we're absolutely on the same page. Yeah. We're not watching a documentary. We're watching a film where this has to happen.
Okay, so you've sat through 65 minutes about a movie. It's a movie about a guy who brings another guy to life, and your biggest problem is this beam falling over.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Because when you
I just wanted to get that clear.
Well, I mean, there's things in Star Wars I could probably talk about, which don't make any sense. But I think the way it works is you establish last week I mentioned Back to the Future. Back to the Future has one thing that you have to accept. It's the time travel DeLorean and everything associated with that. Then you don't just have characters that don't behave like people, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise it's not enjoyable.
Right.
That movie's good. That movie's great because we like the people.
Right.
And this movie's great because we like the people.
Yeah.
Except for Victor, who we hate. We fucking hate.
Despise.
Oh Lord. Okay, so yes, this is maybe my biggest problem.
Okay, well that's if that's your biggest problem, that's fine.
That's why I love this film.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of big problems with it, but I think it's silly. But it's good. I'll say a reason why I like it. It's obvious on the screen. Nobody's watching this movie and doesn't get why they can't get in the door.
Right.
It's clear what's
happened.
Clearly established what's going on.
Yeah.
That's about all I can give you.
Because the monster's not going to lock the door behind him. That would be ludicrous.
Right. Right.
So this makes perfect sense that something fell, and he even reacts to it.
It's true.
He kind of looks back like, whoa, okay, whatever.
Yeah, this didn't happen by accident. I mean, on set.
On set. Yeah, no, I was like, oh, that's great. Keep that in.
Great, leave it.
No, because it's called out in the script
Okay.
as happening.
How did they describe it in the script? Did they use the word Goldberg?
No, funny, they didn't. I don't know if
Just a beam falls.
Rube Goldberg was a thing in 31.
I guess I picture it being around then, but I guess
It might have been. It was
later.
like a newspaper
Must have
comic.
been later.
It might have been. I don't know.
Huh.
If you know, send us a card, letter, whatever.
Yeah, but only to our Patreon.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then we've got Karloff. This is where I had sack of potatoes.
Well,
so you know what I'm going to say.
Before that, there's a
Perfect.
shot of the villagers kind of converging onto the windmill.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where you can kind of see it's a process shot because some of the torches are transparent.
Oh.
The actual stick part of it is
Okay.
transparent.
Okay, this is fantastic. This is one of the things I scribbled down while we were watching it.
Yeah.
Was I looked for that and didn't see it.
Okay.
So I was noticing that it was a process shot. I can see where the process
the
shot
line
is,
yeah.
but I didn't see that.
Okay.
So the fact that the torches are, that fire is somewhat transparent.
Well, the fire itself isn't. It's
worked
the
for
actual,
me. Right.
Yeah.
So you're saying the actual stick,
Yeah.
and I just didn't see that.
I didn't notice it till fairly recently.
Okay.
Having watched, I probably watched this film more in the last year and a half than I have my entire life leading up to it. So
Yeah, I don't think
that's
you
not- I'm not saying
people,
that's a
you
bad-
listeners, realize what we've gone through.
it's not a
We
bad
used to
thing.
like Frankenstein, but now this minute is, I mean, all we've done is trash this minute. It's just a terrible minute. We've got a Rube Goldberg-esque
Stupid log that falls.
log, a log. I like that. It is a log that falls, and then the process shot
That is
fails.
for shit. Yeah.
Then Karloff trying to bring Clive up the stairs.
Sack of potato up.
Sack of potatoes. But this is where I see
This is where you referred
it just
to.
looks terrible. He's trying to climb up those stairs with him. And it looks to me like, and this is where I put the strength of 10 men thing.
Yeah.
This minute, it doesn't look like he has the strength of 10 men.
No,
he
it
looks like he has the
this is
strength of about
hard.
one man.
Yeah.
And that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
It's clear that this is not. But even that, though, it's not something I noticed.
It doesn't detract, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into why this is a problematic sequence.
Mm-hmm.
You referenced Greg Manx, Bela Lugosi, and Boris Karloff, the story of
The
haunting
haunting.
collaboration.
There you go.
It starts discussing this very sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to elaborate, or shall I? Or
Well, the way Mank describes it, it's as if, in my opinion, the way he describes it is that he accepts up front that Whale kind of wants to torture Karloff.
Yeah.
It isn't just in the service of the film,
No.
but also that somehow Karloff has upstaged Whale,
Yes.
which is sort of an absurd way of thinking of how you'd make a movie. I mean, I get that Whale was an actor at one point,
Right.
but I'm pretty solid on the fact that he's a director.
Yeah.
So he would want his actor. I mean, whatever. I can't get into the mechanics of it or the into their heads to that degree, and I'm not sure where. I mean, I get that Mank's done the research, so
Right.
I should defer
Defer
to
to
him
him.
because people who were on set, their opinions on how this went are valid.
Yeah.
But it just seems like weird to me to think that you would say that he's deliberately. It comes across as if he's deliberately torturing Karloff.
That's what I'd always heard, even prior to reading that book.
Yeah.
And this was shot the same day as the lake footage with Little Maria. So this is a long day. It was like a 12-plus hour day. Karloff actually referred to it as the hardest day of his life.
Okay.
And what we're talking about is that James Whale insisted on take after take after take after take of Karloff carrying Clive up they're not even stairs. It's more like a ladder.
Yeah. So one take of that punch from last week
It was fine.
looks great.
Yeah, let's go.
Print it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But this, he apparently did numerous takes, and it's 2 levels that he goes up. So this was a long, grueling experience, I would imagine, because it's not a dummy. It's really Colin Clive, and it does not look easy to circumnavigate the ladders either. So this had to be difficult. And
I have, like I said last week, I have in my notes sack of potatoes. I'd rather do it with a sack of potatoes.
You would, yeah.
You would throw a sack of potatoes over your shoulder, but that's not what he does here.
Right. He's got to be conscious of or aware of not hurting Clive as he's doing this. That's a very real concern. And, no stuntman, that's them.
Yep.
And the reason being that I think May Clark has said, and several people on like I said on the set, said is that Whale was growing jealous of Karloff. Karloff was stealing the movie, not purposefully, but he was that good. I think Whale didn't realize how good he would be in the role, and it hurt his pride to some degree that he wasn't getting the accolades that Karloff was. I don't know how true that is.
I just don't see how that all plays out while you're still making the film.
Yeah.
Like if you had told me that any of that was in the case in the sequel, where he said, "Look at me, I made Frankenstein," and everybody went, "Yeah, Karloff was great in that."
Great,
okay,
yeah.
But so those accolades are taking place during the cast sitting around to watch the dailies.
I guess from Junior or whatever.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably true. The problem I'm having with all this is I'm arguing with it, but it's the history, it's the lore, so I'm probably wrong.
Well, and I think what it essentially comes down to, and I've read a few Whale biographies and Karloff biographies, is Whale presented himself as an aristocrat.
Mm-hmm.
Not an aristocrat.
An aristocrat, yeah.
You can tell I had kids. As an aristocrat, where he wasn't. He was, the son of a blast furnace worker or something from a very, very working class, poor town.
It's strange to even think.
Yeah.
You'd think that would be more of a point of pride.
I guess.
I don't know. Maybe I just think of the world differently.
He presented himself as being wealthy, aristocratic, cultured, where the background he came from was anything but. Whereas Karloff was the exact opposite. He came from that background. He was the son of an aristocrat. He had a great childhood to a degree.
Well, maybe that enters into it, because I was going to say they're making a movie about a dirty, filthy monster or whatever you called him, and a big, ugly monster.
I think that probably is more where the jealousy comes from than actual getting the accolades and stuff, which were to come.
Yeah.
Once the film was released.
I'm thinking about the stories of tea time and the breaks on set, and when I hear about that, I just think about Lugosi saying it about Karloff in the films they did together. That's not a Whale set.
Right.
So I guess I don't know what a Whale set is like in that sense, but I always picture it as, and I guess the pictures look kind of like this. Like these are the two British guys sitting around having tea. So I don't know. It's hard for me to square all this.
Yeah, I really don't know. And Karloff wasn't adverse to working with him. He did it twice again.
And that's where it really, immediately.
Yeah.
He's making Old Dark House
right
a few weeks later.
Right after this, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's hard to, maybe just Boris just didn't see it.
Yeah.
And just Whale didn't, wasn't overt about it, or people are just misreading the situation that were there.
I was just watching a thing, the Red Letter Media guys, and I mention them a lot, but I like those guys.
No, they're good.
Did about The Exorcist, and they were talking about the extras on the Blu-ray, and I got to watch that. I put it on my pile of things to watch, but apparently there was a lot of footage that they filmed on set, so there's a lot of extensive features on that.
Yes.
And they just basically talk about that, including interviews with the director, that he's just a complete fucking lunatic.
Oh,
and
Billy
actors,
Friedkin? He's just nuts as,
Yeah, other films too.
Not
the way he
not
filmed,
necessarily in a bad way, but he's, to some degree, that's true.
So that's an interesting way to say that, not necessarily in a bad way. I think there are things that now exist in cinema history that are both.
Yeah.
The French Connection exists because this guy was a fucking asshole,
yep.
and God bless him. It's both.
Well, that's exactly, that's my point.
Yeah. That's what I thought you were saying.
The film exists the way it does that, The Exorcist.
And I'm so glad nobody got fucking killed.
Right. So is Ellen Burstyn. And
exactly. You get exactly what I'm trying to say here. Yeah. Watch anything about any stories about Friedkin, and you'll see what my point is.
Yeah.
And that's what we have here. This minute is a minute where we see a 40-something. How old is Karloff? 42, 45.
40,
I can't remember.
Yeah, something like that. 42.
And he's probably never gonna be well again. Like this minute probably screwed up his back.
It did.
Life.
No, it did. Absolutely did.
Yeah.
He had lifelong back problems as a result.
And we're watching it happen here, and it looks great.
Yep.
So that's.
Here's the thing, though. He was never bitter about it.
No, right.
I never heard him or read anything of him saying, "Well, that fucking whale ruined my back," and he never had anything but good to say about anything, really. I mean,
and that's huge too.
Yeah,
that's a huge part of how we view this stuff.
Yes. Yeah, he loved his job. Mm-hmm. He loved what he was doing. He was thankful he got to do it, even when he became a millionaire because of this. He kept working and doing shitty movies that he didn't have to up until the day he died, just about.
Yeah, I'm a contrarian maybe by nature, but I'm sitting here arguing with you in my head already. So now I'm thinking Karloff does this movie and then forms the Actors Union because this is fucking bullshit.
Okay, there's something to that too,
Yeah.
but a lot of that was that there were no bathrooms on the sets. There were, long, this was like a 12, 13-hour day. That takes its toll.
12, 13-hour, shooting day?
Shooting day.
So Karloff is there.
You add another 6 hours to that because of the taking off and putting on the makeup. Yeah.
By the time he got the makeup off, they started putting it on for the next day.
next day, yeah. Well, there's stories that he sometimes would sleep
in the chair.
Overnight on the set in the makeup, so he didn't have to go through it again.
Yeah, some of that's hard to even picture because you sort of picture there being, I don't know,
I'm sure he took
like a place to sleep.
Maybe.
Like if you were
like a bungalow or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, I don't know, a trailer or something. I'm picturing the traditional, movie star in his trailer kind of thing.
Yeah.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out this summer, so I'm picturing that.
I haven't seen it yet. I know. Well, you haven't seen Maltese Falcon, so fuck you.
All right, you might have me there. All right, so on the second round of stairs, you've set. Is that your last card for this minute?
No,
I've got some more. All right. On the second round of stairs, as a way of giving some sort of caveat to this torture for Karloff, clearly Clive is
helps.
Not a sack of potatoes and
bit.
tries to help a little bit.
Yeah.
And even when he's not helping, you can see he's ready to help. Like his hand is ready to steady him even when he doesn't need to it. So that's kind of funny to watch for.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like an unconscious person in that one shot. So what's great about that, of course, is why did we have to do multiple takes? Because we wanted to make it perfect. Well, it ain't perfect because it doesn't even look like he's unconscious.
Yeah.
He's helping. I got to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And it's not again, none of this is a big problem. I love Frankenstein.
No.
Then we cut outside, and the townspeople have located a battering ram.
They found a big log.
So, one guy, Frankenstein's Mountains, Ludwig Woods, and Vogel Lake. Boy, I got all the names right.
Yeah,
I don't know who brought a battering ram, but I guess that's part of it.
They have the torches at the ready, so maybe
That's a good point.
It's part of the
What
kit.
am I talking about? They've got like 150 torches. So probably a battering ram. They probably had two battering rams.
Yeah, they got a guy with the checklist. Okay, you got the torches check, you got the battering ram check.
Who's got the battering ram? Well, we're just going to the woods, but I'll bring it.
Incessantly yelping hounds
check.
That's
right. It's just like our podcast.
Yep.
So then something I'm embarrassed to say I didn't notice until this viewing.
Okay.
While they're doing the battering ram on the front door, another guy, do you notice this? Just to the right is banging on the wall with a stick.
Yeah,
I never noticed.
I don't know what good it's going to do, but...
Wait a minute. What? Fuck you. I think that's what that is. I'm so pissed. Okay, you four do battering ram. I wanted battering ram. Well, I don't know. Just fucking bang on the wall with a stick. That might help.
That might do it.
Okay, so... All right, so then we got inside.
Well, as they're doing it, the Michael Mark, Ludwig, says once more.
Yeah.
But it is looped over and over again throughout the rest of the minute.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's the same. I've listened to it very carefully. It's the same.
That makes sense. I think, I can hear it. They even put it in the subtitles. Yeah. And they even cut to the next shot, and you can still see it in there.
It reminds me of the end of Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, where Bud's like, "Untie the boat.
Okay.
Untie the boat, will you? Untie the boat, will you please?" It's the same line, just...
And the same idea, which is funny. That's the funny thing about ADR is once you become aware of it. What does ADR stand for?
Auto dialogue replacement.
Okay, nice. People know what that is. That's when you're
looping, dubbing,
you're putting dubbing, you're putting in a voice after the fact.
Yeah.
And it can be used for any number of reasons. Again, I got to go back to Star Wars. The whole fucking thing is
basically
done just because they didn't give a shit about how it sounded on set.
Yeah.
But when I talk about it, what I generally mean is they've added something after the fact. It's probably not in the script, or it might be. It doesn't matter. But oftentimes, like this, it's to make a point that they're not sure they're making when they edit it.
Yeah.
They've edited it together and said, "Boy, this would sure be clearer to the audience."
If somebody said once more,
If somebody said once more 8 times, and it's fine.
Yeah, I mean there are other much more obvious where someone will say something but their mouth isn't even moving.
Yeah, that's right.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Or it'll have going back to duck soup. It'll have a very different tonal quality to it.
Well, I was going to go back to that growl you talked about.
Oh, right, that too. Yeah.
Totally unnecessary. Somebody thought that should go there.
Yeah.
Not really needed.
Right. The one in the
if anything, it makes it a little worse.
The one in the watchtower when Henry and Waldman are going down. Is that the one you're talking about, or the one?
No,
in the
I was
house?
talking about the other one.
In the house?
Yeah, I was talking about the one in the house, but now you're making me think about the one in the watchtower.
He's in the cellar. He's in the basement.
Yeah, that's just it makes it worse.
Yeah, it makes it silly. It makes it very silly.
Anyway, well, so that's interesting. Then you got this big thingy turning.
Oh, well, it's the mill. It's
the mill. That's the word I was looking for. Thingy.
Yeah.
And I'm familiar with this because of the movie White Zombie, where it's a huge set piece for that film.
Right.
And probably the best thing in that film, maybe.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that's not great in that film. It's haunting in that film. It's an image that haunts.
Well, there because it's propelled by the
zombies.
Slave zombies. Yeah.
And here, it's much more efficiently
done by wind.
Done by wind power, because we're in a windmill.
We're in a windmill, but you do have to be careful of the windmill cancer that you can get.
Oh, God.
See, we're going to bring up fucking Trump any chance we can get to make him look like an idiot. So,
but people won't even remember who that is.
No, they won't.
That's so far in the past.
A year from now, they won't know who he is.
I mean, even by the time this airs, I'm hopeful this would be something in the past.
I'm hoping.
Oh, whatever. We'll see. Okay, so when we do see, I'm trying to sort of, the shots are going back and forth a lot in these later minutes.
Well,
so I've been doing this for a few weeks. Yeah, it's an adventure movie.
Because it should tighten as it. Yeah.
Well, it's become an adventure film.
Yeah.
And so that does that. So when I take these notes, sometimes they don't work. I just kind of bounce around chronologically because the movie does that. And one of the things I notice is when they do show the villagers outside, the flames are just whipping. So clearly they are outside.
They're outside, yeah.
And it's windy.
I believe that the bottom level was actually built on an actual hill outside, because it sure looks like it.
I like it. That's got to be true.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It looks like it, because for the wide shot, going back to the wide process shot of the full windmill turning, it really looks like the lower half is on location. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a fair assumption.
So they had locations where they felt they could do that stuff, but then climbing up the rocks, they had to build it on a set and drape whatever curtains they could find.
You can control the lighting that way much easier. Shooting on location at night in the 30s was difficult, I'm sure. Yeah. The amount of light that you would need. That's why a lot of those shots where they're going along with their torches, it's very dark. Mm-hmm. So for the mountain sequences, you want to see things. So
I suppose.
Plus, it's expensive. It's hard to shoot on location sometimes, and shooting in a condition like that would have been really difficult at night.
Yeah, I suppose when you've got a, I haven't done it, but from what I've heard, because I do a podcast because I've watched so many DVD extras or whatever. But you hear those guys talking about filming Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Yeah. And so much of that was on location.
How difficult it was.
And if they had that to do over again, I'm sure they wouldn't have even bothered.
Yeah.
But it's gorgeous.
Oh,
and that's
great.
That's the case here.
Yeah.
Every time they go outside, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. It gives it a little verisimilitude.
Yep.
Certainly in the case of Holy Grail.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the most authentic looking medieval movie.
Yeah.
Short of something from Italy or something.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's great about the extras on that Holy Grail is Monty Python is that very distinct piece of work where it's 6 guys making it and making the decisions.
Yeah.
And basically just those 6 guys. Yeah. And so by the time you get to Holy Grail, they almost fucking hate each other. And now they're just talking about, and now it's softened with age and with time.
Clearly
but clearly Cleese would just walk in the door right now. I'm surprised he didn't. To argue with you, because he doesn't give a shit what it looks like. Anyways, so that's that one. The other thing I was going to say, then we have a shot of the monster waving the villagers away from the window, which is silly and completely ineffective. But it's a silly and ineffective thing for a character to do. But it completely elicits sympathy from us. Well, he's a monster.
It goes back to the childlike quality as well. Just like wishing it away.
Yeah, that's...
He doesn't know what to do at this point. He's cornered.
It's so weird to talk about this movie and talk about Whale torturing Karloff and Whale looking at this as a big old dirty monster, and then something like this, and you go, did he even realize he was doing a shot that was going to come across as childlike? I have to think so. This piece of art we're watching has to be deliberate.
You're getting the line, big filthy monster from Gods and Monsters.
Yeah, probably.
So that is a fictional movie as well, and it's also 30-some years after, or 20-some years after the fact.
Yeah.
Coming from a bitter old man.
Yeah.
So I think he knew exactly what he was doing with the monster character in Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
We've talked about being the outsider, being the artistic homosexual in a blue collar town. Mm-hmm. That had to come into play. So I think he knew exactly the kind of sympathy that the character was going to get. He was the most sympathetic character in the entire movie. And certainly in Bride, he's...
Well, Victor's pretty sympathetic.
Yeah. Feel for him throughout.
He probably is now after all the abuse we've heaped on him. Leave him alone.
We're going to show up here with torches. Stop bashing bowls.
That's all right. We got enough dogs.
Yep.
Release the hounds.
Yeah. We'll keep the fourth one behind.
That's true. I think that's what I got.
Yeah, I mean...
I will say this at the very end of this minute, and I don't even know if this is worth saying, but when you watch just this minute, the monster's at the window going, and then Henry wakes up and he looks up, and every time I watch it, because I'm only watching it minute by minute, I think, he's like, come back to bed. That's what he looks like to me. Oh, come back to bed. Shush, sweetie.
I didn't get that from it, but now that's all I'll be able to see.
Folks, listen, just watch this minute, and that's what you'll get out of it.
You also get, a really big close-up of the inside of Colin Clive's nose.
Oh, really? The inside of his nose?
Well, as he's laying there, it's shooting up at him. So
I think he doesn't even have a bloody nose.
It's coming.
He's got blood coming out of his mouth. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it.
Yep. More windmill action next week.
Yep. For those of you that you can't get enough windmills.
Yep.
Then we'll go into Foreign Correspondent. Let's talk about that because there's windmills.
It's Windmill Minute. And which, if you like the podcast, if you like Windmill Minute, you should go to the Patreon, and you should at least be aware that there is a Patreon. I mean, I completely understand that not everybody needs to contribute.
No.
That's not how this works. The Frankenstein Minute's free, and it'll always be free. But if you want to support us, and it helps us to produce this podcast, if you do like it, if you do like Windmill Minute, this is why it helps us.
Yeah.
If you can just go to patreon.com/Frankenstein Minute. Now we're gonna find out I've got that wrong, and it's not. It's something else.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for weeks.
5 weeks we've been saying the wrong.
But it's just sign up for $2 a month,
$2 a month is all you need.
You get a little bit of bonus content, and
episodes a day early as well. So
and every week, Frankenstein Thursday.
New episode every Friday, but for you, as a Patreon supporter, it'll be every Thursday.
Yeah,
you can make all your friends
can't
jealous.
Wait till Friday. Like when Frankenstein Friday rolls around, do you want to be listening to Frankenstein Minute, or do you want to be the guy who already knows what's been said on Frankenstein Minute?
Right.
You should be tweeting about it on Thursday. So people are like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I gotta listen. Yeah.
You want people to be like, oh, spoilers! You're ruining Frankenstein Minute for me.
So be the first one on your block to sign up at patreon.com/Frankenstein Minute.